And joining us now is Randolph McLaughlin, a professor at Pace University, Elisabeth Haub School of Law, where he teaches courses on civil rights. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Before we get into the action by the High Court that our reporter Kevin just laid out and the Biden administration's response as well, I first want to talk to you a little bit about what happened in Tennessee last night, where Republicans expelled 2 Democratic state lawmakers. First, let's take a quick listen to what a Tennessee lawmaker had to say about it all.
I don't think that you can avoid the reality, which is that the 2 youngest African-American members of the Tennessee General Assembly were expelled today. And that's an embarrassment to our state. And I think that that is something that all of us have to try to work our way forward to be a better legislature in terms of really representing everyone in the state.
So from a legal perspective, and with your expertise and experience, do the 2 representatives who were expelled have any type of legal recourse, or do they just have to wait and see what can happen to them?
They have many legal recourses available to them. The classic case of a legislator being expelled by the legislature was the case of Adam Clayton Powell Jr., who was expelled by the Congress and when he was an activist congressman. And one of my organizations that I litigated with, the Center for Constitutional Rights, sued Speaker McCormick, to have Mr. Powell reseated because they had violated the rules of the House. And guess what happened? The Supreme Court ruled that Powell had to be reseated. That same opportunity, that same avenue is available to these 2 legislators. Why? Because the legislature appears to have violated their own rules and procedures. And in fact, there's supposed to be a hearing, a trial, some sort of a process. They were denied any process whatsoever. And moreover, given the fact that this has only happened 3 times, I believe, in this state where they've expelled members of the House, and in both of those cases, there were serious crimes and allegations of such, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. So I think in terms of litigation, the federal courts should be open to these 2 legislators to march into court and get reseated. But in the interim, the residents of Memphis and Nashville are without a representative in that body. Now, under Tennessee law, it may very well be that in the absence where a seat is vacant, the political body or the municipal body can appoint someone in the interim until a special election is held. So I would urge the legislators, like city council members in Memphis and Nashville, to show that the House of Representatives and those legislators who expelled these 2 gentlemen, to show them who's the boss. It's the people, not the speaker, not one party. But let us not forget, Tennessee is the home of the Ku Klux Klan. The founder of the Ku Klux Klan was named General Nathan Bedford Forrest. Tennessee has a holiday for him, a holiday for white supremacy. Well, I guess it still lives well and alive in Tennessee.
I can see you're very impassioned about that, and I want to pull on that thread a little bit more. Just the racial element is impossible to ignore. The fact that there are 2 black men, young black men, that were kicked out, and the one white woman who participated in the same protest got to keep her seat. Your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, as I watched this debacle, this charade last night, I said to myself, are they going to be so stupid, so ignorant, so obviously biased that they're going to expel 2 young black men and let a white blonde woman stay? Why? Because she's the essence of white Southern women? And we're going to hold them up and protect them, but we're not going to protect these young black men? I mean, seriously, if they had any sense at all, they would have expelled all 3 of them. And then we couldn't have this debate about racism in Tennessee. But clearly, race was a factor. As Ms. Johnson just said, the questions directed at the 2 black legislators were quite different than the questions directed at her. There's a lack of respect, and there's an inequality in how these gentlemen were treated by the House in Tennessee. But they'll be back.
And just real quick,
they'll be back.
From a legal perspective, how would you build a case? Would you build it on the idea of discrimination, or what you were talking about, what you allege to be a violation of the rules, that they should have gone through a different process, whether that's a censure or some other punishment than getting kicked out?
Well, I'm an old fan of what we call kitchen sink lawyering. If I were handling this case, I would throw everything at them. Racism, violation of the process, unconstitutional approach to legislatures. I would have thrown the entire book at these legislators, and I use that term loosely.
Well, all eyes are on Tennessee now, so that will certainly be watched very closely. And I do want to get your thoughts now on the Supreme Court's decision to allow a 12-year-old transgender girl in West Virginia to continue competing on the girls' track team at her school, while a lawsuit over a state ban lingers. What impact could that ruling have on other states pushing an anti-transgender legislation, particularly for these young children?
Well, I don't want to read too much at this moment into what the court has done. Why do I say that? The court issued an injunction, or refused to overturn the lower court's injunction prohibiting this state law. But we don't know what their reasoning was. We don't know why they did it. The Fourth Circuit that issued the injunction didn't give us reasons either. That's the only thing I agree with Justice Alito on here. The Fourth Circuit should have told us, why are you doing this? But so here's the bottom line. You need 4 judges to bring a case to the Supreme Court. You need 5 judges to win. So here, 2 judges dissented from this order. It's an extraordinary order because it's before the case has even gotten to the Supreme Court. 2 judges dissented. 7 judges didn't. Remember, Justice Gorsuch, a few years back, ruled that another civil rights statute, Title VII, protects same-sex individuals from being discriminated against gays and lesbians in the workplace. That was Justice Gorsuch. Hardly a progressive, hardly a liberal, but he's a textualist. Well, the same analysis that Justice Gorsuch used in the case upholding the rights of gays, LGBTQ communities under Title VII, which protects employment discrimination, that same rationale should apply to Title IX, which is a base pattern after Title VII, but Title IX protects against discrimination in the school setting. So I think that there may very well be a group of justices across the aisle, if you will, who will find that this type of legislation is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution, and whether or not the recent approach by Mr. Biden, President Biden, to change the definitions under Title IX, whether or not those go through or not, is irrelevant to this question. I think that what Justice Gorsuch and others who are textualists might very well do is uphold this injunction and strike down these across-the-board bans of transgender children, because that's what we're talking about, children. So listen to this. What Alito said was, we should be able to have laws that differentiate on physiological differences. So what are we going to do now? When a young girl comes forward and says, I want to join this team, are we going to expect her genitals? There's actually laws on the way in several states to actually do that, to have children have to strip down while they inspect their bodies. In a time when we deal with pedophilia, we deal with sexual abuse and harassment of children, this is the direction we want to go. What kind of country are we moving towards? Do we want a country where we have a right to self-determination and self-expression, or do we want a place where it's more like an authoritarian rule?
And on that, Randolph McLaughlin, professor at Pace University, Elisabeth Haub School of Law, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of your thoughts on these 2 very polarizing yet very important issues happening in our country right now. Thank you for your expertise on this.
Thank you.